I don't think senior living companies focus enough on storytelling of the residents from a personal viewpoint. And I always give this example. Imagine there is a retired professor that was like a physics professor or study the stars or something like that, right? Well, just they have some specific, really unique occupation or life journey.
Yeah.
And they chose to live in a senior living community because it relates to their life and their personality and the amount of money they're making, right? So I wish I saw more senior living communities focusing on residents' personal stories and associating it with their brand.
Welcome to The Move-In, a senior living marketing podcast from Unlock Health, a full-service marketing partner for the aging services industry. Join us for candid conversations exploring the latest marketing strategies with the senior living community leaders and innovative solution partners who are moving our industry forward. Together, we'll build a community to build better communities. One fun aspect of conferences is that you get to meet people that you're a fan of. Today, I got to connect with someone I've been following on LinkedIn for over a year, and I've been impressed with his work and appreciate the talents he brings to senior living. The person I'm referring to is the incredible Tom Sanders. Tom is the founder of Senior Living Photography, and he is a trailblazer in the senior living space, capturing resident stories and vibrant lives through his stunning photography and videography. With over 20 years of experience, Tom has developed a unique approach to senior living photography, blending dignity, vitality, and authenticity in every frame. In this conversation, we discuss Tom's background in the evolution of his career, the importance of storytelling and aging well, and the unique challenges of photographing seniors with cognitive or physical limitations. With that said, let's dive into the world of senior living photography with the one and only Tom Sanders.
We are back on the move in senior living. We got Tom Sanders with us today. Tom, thanks for being a part of this. I've been a big fan of yours. Man, ever since I really got started in senior living about a year and a half ago, I saw some of the photography that you were providing and the stories you were telling. So before we go any further, I want you to really, if you don't mind, introducing yourself and kind of just tell us more about some of your work.
Yeah, thank you, Larry. Thank you for having me. It's great to meet you in person, especially from a girl dad to a girl dad, of course.
We exchange stories and helpful advice, so we need to start a club. We were talking about that, the Senior Living Girl Dad Club, man, just a support system, right?
Yeah, well, my daughters just turned 6 and 9. They're 3 years apart, but one birthday is October 7th and the other's October 14th.
Oh, wow.
So it's been pretty crazy. And then we had the hurricanes prior to that. So it's been like a whirlwind of a few weeks.
Let's say so.
But my company's called Senior Living Photography. My website is seniorlivingphotography.com. And when I was about 21 years old, I had this college homework assignment to photograph a World War II veteran. And he told me this really dramatic war story. And my grandfather was in World War II and his brother died in the Battle of the Bulge.
Wow.
So when I photographed that first World War II veteran, growing up with my grandfather, knowing he was in World War II, I really started to understand what he went through.
Sure.
And so I was going to Cal Poly in Central California, and then I moved down to Los Angeles, and I had this goal to travel the country and photograph veterans.
That's amazing.
We're predominantly World War II veterans to get a big book published.
Because that was at a phase where we knew that the greatest generation, and they're not going to be around forever.
That's correct. Yeah, there's always these statistics and so I'm 40 now. That was about 20 years ago, crazy enough. And back then they said there was 1,000 World War II veterans dying a day. And I don't think that statistic was quite accurate because they would all be gone if that was true.
Yeah.
And so I ended up teaming up. I have this ongoing partnership with Belmont Village Senior Living where I travel the country photographing war veterans that live in their communities. And that project really has a life of its own. And so when I was about 30 years old, I fully committed to just doing films and photo shoots for senior living companies all over the country.
Wow.
And I do everything from lifestyle advertising photo shoots. I do commercials. I've started to shoot more architecture. And then I also have kind of a side hustle, or I should say I do have a side hustle called Senior Stock Photos. So I do photo shoots, films, stock photos, and a little bit of comedy writing as well.
Comedy writing. Nice. I know that part now. You're also a professor.
Yes, so thank you. Yeah, I'm also a professor.
When you're busy when I'm the one that reminding you of the extra jobs that you have. You have a lot going on.
Yes, I'm definitely busy. I lecture for about 7.5 months out of the year, and then I teach a few days at school. I do teach some online classes, so that provides for my flexibility to travel for companies all over.
So you started with these portraits of these World War II veterans. And now that's really opened up other doors. And what have you really learned? Because it sounds like it started, really honoring your grandfather, his brother through these portraits. But what have you learned taking that into, overall senior living photography?
Yeah. So the biggest thing is, from a veteran perspective, when we photograph the veterans, sometimes, like I was just doing a photo shoot in, where was I? In Austin, Texas. And this Vietnam veteran was telling some of his stories for the first time, and his daughter did not know. She was there at the photo shoot.
Okay.
She said, "I'd never heard these stories," and so she was really appreciative.
Sure.
So it creates an opportunity for veterans to tell a story. So it's cathartic. So I like that part of the project because it's like giving back. And I also think that if a veteran sees battle or not, they all still do their part. Now, how that ties more into senior living and how I've been doing films and photo shoots for 20 years now in senior living communities, I think a lot about longevity and aging and how that relates to myself. My older brother, Ian, he's turning 50, I think, next year. And a few years back, he said, "Tom, you're middle-aged right now." And I said, no, middle-aged? That's like an old person. That's like someone that's like, 50 to 60 or something. He said, no, 0 to 30 is like your whatever first stage, 30 to 60 is midlife, and 60 to 90 is,
If we look at the average life.
right. Yeah, right. So I photographed Dan Buettner, the creator of the Blue Zones diet, earlier in my career. And Dan Dan was hired by Nat Geo to travel around the country and learn where these regions where people live to 100, they don't have cancer, they don't have any sort of like health ailments.
Sure.
And so then he studies those groups of people, and then he writes about how we can incorporate that more into our everyday life. So I look at seniors who are in their 80s and 90s, who I predominantly work with, and I just think, how can I age as well as I possibly can?
Yes.
And so I do the cold baths, I do intermittent fasting.
Okay.
I try and eat, predominantly vegetarian. The alcohol thing there's so much mixed information out there.
It really is. Yes.
So in the Blue Zones diet, Dan Buettner says some of these cultures have 1 to 2 drinks every day.
Yes.
And then there's other studies coming out, like in Loma Linda, that's a Blue Zone, and they don't drink at all. And they're all living, long lives. So the hard part is kind of sifting through that information. And I think it's also important that something I try and do is just share with, midlife people is how to age well. Like I like to think of myself as an amateur expert in longevity. And that's something that here at these senior living conferences, we don't really talk about that very much. Like, do you incorporate like longevity, lifestyle things into your life in any way?
I think as we get older, it does become a lot more apparent. I'm like, okay, I need to move more and try to be more intentional about just taking these extra steps and being aware of, like you said, it's unfortunately you're on the backside of that hill, and just being aware of like, who do I want to be for, I'm 43, I have a 11-year-old and 14-year-old. Who do I want to be for my daughters as they grow up, as well as for my future grandkids?
Right.
And so, yeah, like it is something that you think about as you get older, but I do think that is something we probably need to discuss in a more open setting,
right,
as well.
Yeah. The age, like aging well, starts now. It doesn't start when you're like in your 50s or 60s. And I don't think most people realize that.
Yeah.
So
you have to be intentional about it earlier to really create those habits. And you reap what you sow. So like there are different thought leaders, talking about how to continue to work on your balance, how to, you want to lift something heavy every day. You want to, move in some of those action items, what you eat, it's going to pay dividends in the long run. And so thinking about with that aspect of aging well with your photography, how do you balance capturing the dignity and vitality of seniors with the realities of aging? I'm sure that is a tough one, because talking about trying to age well, but at the same time, there's still that vitality and, and importance of active aging. And I'm sure that trying to find that balance, you want to showcase both sides.
yeah, that's a great question. So I predominantly photograph real residents for senior living companies in their 70s, 80s, and 90s. There are these younger, kind of more urban apartment communities that are starting to pop up where some of the residents might be in their 50s or 60s, but really I'm photographing people like 75, older than 70, 80s, 90s, 100s. So the it's not easy to photograph residents. They might have cognitive challenges. They might have physical challenges. They may not hear very well. They've never modeled before on a photo shoot. They're modeling, right, for an advertisement. And there's crew members. I mean, sometimes I have 10 crew members on set, and there's always people standing around. So the biggest thing is just to slow down, make them feel comfortable, choose an activity such as happy hour, doing something they enjoy. You'll get more natural expressions from the residents. And also, I can say with a lot of confidence, I'm very comfortable with the seniors and residents. I can make these awkward jokes and, engage them in these surprising ways to make them laugh. Yeah, like if I have a group of, mature female residents, I'll say, hey, do you see that fireman over there that's shirtless, and they will always laugh, so it's just making those kind of slightly inappropriate jokes that gets a natural reaction.
Absolutely. I say this in every conversation I have. It's about just being human and creating those human experiences. And then if you create that, provide that, I'd say that safe space just to, I don't know, I don't say be photogenic, but like just to be your true self. You sure that's a big part of it? What unique challenges do you face? Like, or if there are any?
Oh my gosh,
photography.
Yeah, there's tons of challenges. Like, I only bring in small crews on the photo shoots because you want to make sure the residents are safe. There's no tripping hazards. Like I was kind of saying before, some of the residents are hard of hearing, and so you can't yell at them. And there's like sometimes like the communities get really excited about the photo shoots, and the residents feel like, I'm not kidding, they feel like Hollywood stars for the day. When we're doing pre-production for the photo shoots, the activities directors are looking for residents to pose. Sometimes the residents don't want to do it. And then the day of the photo shoot, they see how fun it is. And
they're
like,
well, hold on, I want to be a part of it.
Yeah, like, why didn't I sign up for this?
Is it too late?
Yeah, exactly. And so it's just about making sure it's quiet on set. Like, all the staff members will be sometimes standing around taking photos, and it's super loud. And then the residents get kind of overwhelmed, and I get kind of overwhelmed. So it's just about being quiet on set and taking your time. The other hard thing is a lot of the times we shoot about 8 scenes in one day.
Okay.
With variation. So if we're doing a dining scene, we might have to photograph the residents eating, pretend to eat their food.
Sure.
Then the chef comes in, they serve the food. Then a waiter comes in, toasting, happy hour, and all that stuff.
A lot of communication through all of that.
Yeah. And so it's just like, you have to like slow down and also be like shooting really quickly to get the shots you need. So, and I'm an expert at it. I've been doing it for a long time. And then
your work reflects that.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
For sure.
And then one other thing I want to mention was, sometimes we have to photograph memory care residents, right?
Yeah.
And like, they might have some mild dementia or have heavy dementia. And so I have to be a good storyteller in photographing these subject matters. And typically the residents, when we do these photo shoots, they always look happy and healthy. They never look like they have any sort of cognitive impairment. So
what are some, this question I wanted to throw at you. What are some key elements of a compelling senior living photo that resonates with both seniors and their families?
So as the oldest baby boomer right now is 80 years old. So in response to this question, we have to be thinking more about the future. So one thing is, I think future photo shoots, the clothing should start to look a little more modern. So when we do our photo shoots, normally the residents show up wearing clothing that they maybe had for a long time. So I think it's about either bringing clothing for the residents to wear or choosing residents that might have like a more modern, hip, clothing attire. The other important thing is, as we know, that the residents that have daughters, the daughters are helping their parents move in. So I have another great tip actually. So showcasing residents with their daughters, and then a huge thing. So I'm starting to shoot a lot more architecture, and in the model room architectural photos, generally the apartment rooms are designed pretty poorly for the most part. And they just don't look very modern. They're outdated. It's like this. Part of that reason is when residents are moving in the idea with senior living is you want to be at full capacity or as close as possible. Or a resident might come into a model room and say, I want this room. I want this view, right? So then they take all the model room furniture, they move it to another room. So it's like this hodgepodge of furniture. But the big tip is these rooms need to predominantly have like a female feeling in terms of the colors, the paintings that are in these model apartment rooms. So those are, and we're going to talk about today. I'm going to talk about that a little bit today at the talk at 4:30. So
Yeah. And tell me the session name. You're presenting with Lola, correct?
yeah, the session name.
Yeah.
I can't remember what it's exactly.
I did that recently, like at a different conference. We're like, what session are you at? I'm like, let me look at my notes real quick. But it's
Yeah.
really about accessibility,
Yeah.
photography, and senior living websites.
Yeah, it's really about like how to produce a great photo shoot. Don't use stock images.
Yes.
And we might touch upon AI a little bit, which like in the Smash, catalog itinerary, I open it up. There's an advertisement in there with this bearded guy, and it's an AI image. And so I just have a lot to say about it, mixed feelings about
I
it.
would like to hear them now, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Because this is actually a segue to my next question about the stock photos versus actually going to communities.
Sure.
Pictures. So it's kind of a all-encompassing question.
Yeah. So AI, we're still at the forefront of, is there going to be copyright infringement when AI is taking, if you go into AI Midjourney Discord and you create a hip-looking gray-haired bearded man that looks like a hip baby boomer on a black backdrop. And that's what this image looks like. And that is stealing images essentially from what other people look like and combining into this image online. So is there copyright infringement that maybe you could potentially get, a company could potentially get sued for?
Yeah.
It's not authentic, right? But with stock photography, that's also to a degree not authentic, right?
That next level.
Yeah,
Sure.
Yeah. And so I think AI should be used in senior living for the hard to get shots, like maybe a close detail shot of residents playing chess or bingo or something like that. I don't think it should be used for, essentially it's like a company is going to use a fake image of a person that represents their advertising. Like,
Sure.
That doesn't seem okay to me. Like, it's like, hey, come live in this senior living community. This person's fake, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's not okay. Now, stock photography, those individuals don't live at that community, So I think the best thing to do is some of my clients, some of my bigger clients, we'll do a big library photo shoot every year and a half to 2 years where we do a big photo shoot for 2 days and we do get all these different scenes and variations. And that represents their marketing for about a year and a half to 2 years. Some of my clients do it at the regional level. So like I just did a photo shoot in Texas, like I was saying, and that represents about 10 communities. And some clients do it at the community level. That's kind of more rare. Yeah, and what was your question about stock photography?
So when do you want to incorporate stock photography? Like, what's your advice on that front? Because I know, yes, in theory, like having the communities being on site, taking these pictures is definitely the better option. But hey, there's going to be some cases where you need to rely on stock photography. Just with your business model, I want to get your thoughts of like when to pull different levers for the photography.
Sometimes there's something so specific that you need right away. Like maybe it's a Christmas announcement and you want residents sitting by a fire celebrating Christmas at the community. I do shoot stuff like that sometimes for clients, but that's usually like not on the top of their mind, right? So there aren't a lot of good images of residents with like caretakers and nurses and stuff like that. So we see a lot of stock images that look like that on companies' websites. So I just think that most of the companies could just do these large library photo shoots, get as many variations and scenes as possible, and those will last, a few years. So
I appreciate that.
yeah. Oh, and ethnic diversity, that's the other hard thing.
Okay, yeah.
So we're going to see on a lot of websites, we're going to talk about it today. It's like this group of seniors, not all of them even look like they're seniors, And that's something that's just an overall issue within senior living marketing because it is predominantly Caucasian at most communities. But in the more metropolitan areas, there's a lot more ethnic diversity. So that's another time where companies might use stock photography.
Yeah, I look forward to that session today where you discuss that in more detail.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, hey, I want you to shout out the group, like your companies, because I know you had a few of them, because I think a lot of people should reach out, like at least review your work and reach out to you if they have additional questions about photography. So please, let everybody know where they can find you and some of the work you're doing real quick.
Yeah. So my website's seniorlivingphotography.com. And then my stock site is seniorstockphotos.com. pitfalls.com. And I live in Savannah, Georgia, and I travel all over the country. We've been in Utah, Texas, California, all over this year. So I'm a busy dude.
It sounds like it for sure. So what's the best way for people to contact you? Is it just through the website?
Yeah, people can call me 805-441-5759.
That's awesome.
I don't much people.
Yeah.
And my email is info@tomsandersphoto.com.
And he does respond to that email. I can attest to that for sure. Tom, thank you so much. Do you have any lasting, advice, maybe a question I didn't ask that you'd like to, to let everybody know about?
Yeah, I don't think senior living companies focus enough on storytelling of the residents from a personal viewpoint. And I always give this example. Imagine there is a retired professor that was like a physics professor or study the stars or something like that, right? Well, they have some specific, really unique occupation or life journey.
Yeah.
And they chose to live in a senior living community because it relates to their life and their personality and the amount of money they're making, right? So I wish I saw more senior living communities focusing on residents' personal stories and associating it with their brand. I rarely see that. And
I feel like social media is a great outlet for that as well.
Yeah, it's tough with social media because sometimes the quality of the storytelling just isn't it's okay, but it's not that good. It's like filmed to the phone and they have the text and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And I mean, they can be good.
Sure.
I mean, the cell phones now, the iPhones, those are the 4K quality. We've seen the commercials. They just filmed a Weekend commercial, Olivia Rodrigo's music commercial. I mean, the quality can be fantastic on a phone. It's just most of the time the people that are filming them just don't know the tools in terms of how to be a good creative storyteller. So it is possible. So it's just I want senior living communities to spend more money on higher production short films and photo shoots to tell their story.
Pay off.
Yes.
100%.
Yeah.
Just because somebody used to tell me it only costs a little bit more to go first class.
Yeah.
And so just take that extra step and it's going to pay dividends.
Yes.
Thank you for that walk off.
Yeah.
Tom, it's so nice to finally get
Likewise.
After being a big fan of yours for a few years, it's nice to actually sit down and talk with you. So
Yeah.
thank you for joining us today.
Thanks, Larry. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it, Tom.
Tom, thank you for providing this look at the world of senior living photography. Here are a few notes that I took from Tom during this conversation. First, invest in high-quality storytelling and production. Tom emphasized the need for senior living communities to focus more on telling the personal stories of the residents through high-quality photo and video content and the value of capturing these compelling narratives. By prioritizing storytelling and production value, senior living communities can differentiate themselves and create more authentic, engaging marketing materials. Second, incorporate modern, diverse imagery. Tom notes the importance of using more modern, stylish clothing and decor in senior living photo shoots to appeal to younger, more tech-savvy audiences. He also suggested leveraging stock photography to supplement on-site photo shoots. Finally, Tom detailed the value of showcasing the relationships between senior residents and their family members, specifically their adult children, who are often involved in decision-making. Tom suggests that communities should find ways to highlight the unique life experiences and personal stories of their residents. Tom, I had high expectations for this conversation and did not disappoint. Thank you for sharing with us today. And until next time, let's go make some meaningful connections.
Thank you for listening to The Move in Healthcare Growth. Add your voice to the conversation. Email the show at themove@unlockhealthnow.com. Follow us on social media and stay up to date at unlockhealthnow.com. Also, be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts so you never miss an episode.